find some kinds of human love in that way, but not agape, not biblical love, not the kind of love that we as believers have received from the Spirit of God and are to demonstrate. There are 15 characteristics of love that I just read to you, and they are all pictures of love in action, love as a verb. And so here we're going to see what love does, how it behaves. This is so very important again because in the Greek world, everything was sort of ephemeral. Everything was esoteric. Everything was in the conceptual realm. Paul wants to get the readers who are used to that Greek philosophizing out of that realm and into the realm of life. The Holy Spirit has come into our lives. He has dispersed the love of God throughout our lives, and it is to be made manifest under the influence of the Holy Spirit as a fruit of the Spirit, the first of the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians 5. That is to be what characterizes us, and it will be visible only in action. Only in action. Love is patient. Macrothumia. Macrothumia. Thumos is a word for anger. Macrothumia is a word that comes to mean extreme patience, a sort of maximum experience before you ever get to anger. It actually became a word that means patience with people. It's not about patience with experiences. It's not about patience with personal pain. It's patience with people. It describes the person who is extremely slow to anger, who virtually never, ever gets angry, no matter how people treat that person. Certainly Jesus was patient with people, patient with the people even who rejected him. But of course, God is patient. The story of Israel is the record of God's patient love toward a rebellious, disobedient, sinful, and disloyal people. If God were at all impatient, Israel would have been destroyed and all promises canceled long ago. If Christ were not patient, the church would have been put out of existence, and all of us who have sinned against the very Christ who loves us would be assigned to condemnation. But God is patient. Christ is patient. God bore with the sins of His people. Christ bears with the sins of His people, with our foolishness and our disobedience. Secondly, love is kind. Love is kind. It gives benefits to others. So, taking the first point and adding to it, not only does love not retaliate, it finds a way to extend kindness instead of vengeance. It grants benefits to others. It doesn't seek to injure even its enemies. It seeks to love. It seeks the well-being of those who harm. Now, the context here is in the church. Remember this. Where offenses happen. Jesus said that, didn't He? In this world, offenses will come. And they certainly come in the church. And they are to be received with love. And love is patient, and love is kind. The root for the word kind is useful. Useful. It is a usefulness in behalf of someone else. The idea is not so much a sweet attitude. The idea is not so much a friendly disposition. The idea rather is that even though one is injured, even though one is mistreated, even though one is hurt or harmed, patience is exhibited, and on top of patience, usefulness is rendered on behalf of the offender. Deeds of kindness that are useful to that person who has offended. Now, wouldn't that be a transformation of most churches? Offenses will happen where a church receives those offenses, individuals receive those offenses with long-suffering and patience and return useful goodness and kindness. You have the kind of church that is obedient to these behaviors that are enjoined upon all of us. Paul does not picture love in ideal surroundings. He doesn't picture it at all in ideal surroundings. He doesn't picture love in the realm of very close and intimate and long-term friendships. He doesn't picture love in the realm of affection, but in the hard surroundings of a sinful, selfish, colliding group of sinners in a church who've all come out of a bad world and have all had bad influences on their already depraved souls, who are by nature selfish, and even though they have a new nature and long for holy things, the old is still resident. This is the atmosphere that we're talking about here. We're not talking about your best friend. We're talking about all the people, all the sinners who collide in the life of the church. We are to demonstrate to one another kindness. Our model again, Peter says, 1 Peter 2:3, if you have tasted the kindness of the Lord. Do you think the Lord is pretty good at returning goodness for evil? Has there been any point in our salvation since we came to Christ that we have earned His favor? Isn't it a constant forgiveness? Isn't every good gift that He gives to His own a gift of grace? Is any of it merited? Do we deserve anything? Not now, not ever. That is why in Ephesians we must always remember that we have been given something that we will never, ever deserve. The Apostle Paul puts it this way: we have been raised up with Him by grace, seated with Him in the heavenlies in Christ, that in the ages to come He might show the surpassing riches of His grace in kindness toward us. Even heaven's kindnesses will be by grace. We will not have earned them. Thirdly, love is not jealous. This is the first of 8 negatives. Love is not jealous.
But that thought, this isn't going to end well. That thought, I'm not what they think I am. Here's one of my strongholds. If they really knew you, they wouldn't like you. If they really knew, because all of us are bluffing. All of us are faking it. All your little cool friends are faking it. They all got acne. They all got issues. They all feel lonely, and none of y'all are cool. Everybody's faking it. Care how expensive your shoes are. You ain't perfect. But Paul, they were coming into church like, oh, he's an imposter. He's not a real one. They were introducing a thought to rob them. You know the devil is a thief, right? He can't take your promise. So now he wants to steal your thoughts. But I was reading something in Proverbs. Can I show you this real quick? I didn't get to show them last night. In Proverbs chapter 6, verse 30, it says, people do not despise a thief if he steals to satisfy his hunger when he's starving. A thief is just a thief. You know the enemy is a thief. You can't blame him for trying to steal what he doesn't want you to have. But check the next verse. I love this, verse 31. Yet if he is caught, he must pay sevenfold. So today we came into this service to catch a thief and to let him know, give me my joy back, give me my peace back, give me my wisdom back, Give me the joy of my salvation. Restore it sevenfold. I caught a thought. I caught a thought. I realized that he loves me. And if he loves me, it doesn't matter if you like me. I caught a thought. I'm bold about it. I'm formed for it. I'm made for it. I'm called to it. And I believe I'll walk right forward into my future, holding on to a thought of the favor of God. Some of y'all need to catch this. Come on, catch this favor, catch this word, catch this joy, catch this peace. You've been hanging around Facebook, but you came in here for some faith today, didn't you? Well, catch this. God is for you. He's more than the world against you. Kick those 10 spies out of your head and listen to Caleb. We can, we should, we will. He is, I have, I am. High five them and say, I caught a thought. I caught a thought. I caught a thought. Just like I caught a cold last February, I caught a thought. I found out that he is able. I found out that he who began a good work in me will be faithful to complete it. I found out he is the bread of life. He is El Shaddai. He is more than enough. I caught a thought of God. A thought brought me into depression, and a thought is going to bring me out. When I survey the wondrous cross on which the Prince of Glory died, my richest gain I count but loss, and pour contempt on all my pride. What's he saying? I caught a thought of the goodness of God, and it lifted me out of the pit of my despair. You can't keep the thought from coming. But watch what Paul said. He said, we demolish strongholds. How do we destroy it? Verse 5 is important. He said, we demolish every spy that says we can't. And every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. How many know something about God that is deeper than a feeling? I mean, you've known it since you were a child. You've known it in your soul. You've known it in your spirit. Deep calls to deep. So when I have a thought that opposes what I know about God, what you gonna do about it? I can't keep it from coming. But he said, we take captive every thought to make it obey Christ. And so when they say, you seem different this week, you don't look so stressed this week, tell them, oh yeah, it's the craziest thing. I caught a thought. It was about this big. I found out God is about this. I caught a thought of his greatness. I magnified him in my mind. I began to rejoice in the rock of my salvation. This I recall to my mind. Therefore I have hope. I caught a thought, and it led me to a hope. Now, the thought that you hold on to, the one that you allow to dominate, that will be the stronghold of your life. If the Lord is your stronghold, if he is the place where you hide, if you catch a thought, a glimpse of your calling. Okay, here it is. There was a woman who was bleeding on the inside. She heard Jesus coming through her part of town. She had done everything to fix it at the level of the symptom, but nothing worked. The condition that she had was a deep one. It was causing her to hemorrhage and lose blood, just like many of us are hemorrhaging emotionally and losing energy and losing hope. When she heard Jesus passing through, her desperation for a change caused her to do something dramatic in her life, because she had gotten a second opinion and a third opinion and a fourth opinion, and none of that worked. But here comes healing, and here comes hope. And the Bible says that she did what she had to do to get through all of the people who could have blocked her, and to grab a hold to catch Jesus as he was passing by to heal somebody else. And he's moving quickly. And Peter's backing everybody away. Don't touch him. He's in a hurry. But she reaches out. And the Bible says that is this verse 37? Yeah, she touched his cloak. She caught him.
This risen King, he's alive.
Paper Ghosts is a true crime podcast investigating the mysterious disappearance and brutal, unsolved murder of Tammy Zawicki.
They just kept telling us from the beginning, she'll be back, she'll be back.
We had no clue where she was. Didn't know where to begin looking.
Tammy's story shocked the nation. The deeper I searched, the more troubling things I found.
The best lead, the best evidence, the best witness was blown off.
Listen to Paper Ghosts on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite shows.
When my daughter ran off to hop trains, I was terrified I'd never see her again. So I followed her into the train yard. This is what it sounds like inside the boxcar. And into the city of the rails. There I found a surprising world, so brutal and beautiful that it changed me. But the rails do that to everyone.
There is another world out there, and if you want to play with the devil, you're gonna find him there in the rail yard.
I'm Danelle Morton. Come with me to find out what waits for us in the City of the Rails. Listen to City of the Rails on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Or cityoftherails.com.
In 1967, Joseph Stalin's only daughter flees Russia for her new home, America.
Hello to everybody. I am very happy to be here.
That story alone is worthy of a podcast, but Svetlana is about what comes next, and it's the craziest story I've ever heard. It has KGB agents, a Frank Lloyd Wright commune, weird sex stuff, 3 Olgas, 2 Svetlanas, and 1 neurotic gay playwright. That's me. Listen to Svetlana on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
It is time now for Junior and Sports Talk. What you got, Junior?
All right, Shirley, but let me remind everybody this Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Atlanta Uptown Comedy Corner. Come get your favorite play cousin, man. Y'all come see me. 5 shows this weekend, 2 Friday, 2 Saturday, 1 Sunday. Go to uptowncomedy.net and get your tickets, man. We get our laugh on. With all this stuff going on, we need to laugh. I know that.
Oh, yeah.
We about to do. All right, man. The views are in from the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl views came in at 113 million people watching. But then also, this is crazy, 118 million tuned in to see Rihanna. So what that thing? What that thing? Wait a minute, Rihanna on.
You got the numbers.
Yeah, man, it's the third highest watched Super Bowl.
Wow.
Yes,
Umbrella, all of that. Third highest watched Super Bowl. That's what it became in at. Third highest watched Super Bowl. The highest
Who was number
rated.
one?
The 2015 Super Bowl with New England and Seattle with the interception at the 1-yard line. Malcolm Butler.
Who was the performer? Who was the performer?
Katy Perry, I think. 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Katy Perry.
That wasn't about nothing right there. She was a star. She was a bona fide star. She was cold, but it wasn't about nothing right there.
Yeah. Another thing we ain't talked about this year already, man.
Prince?
The commercials. Did y'all?
Prince was cold.
Prince was number one.
What?
Number one. That was Miami.
So Prince had a better Super Bowl than Michael Jackson?
In the rain with a do-rain.
Prince
was cold, man. Mike was cold. Them was what are the rankings though? Who was number one?
Prince.
Yeah, Prince was number one.
two?
Michael's number two.
And
Yeah.
then
Okay.
number three.
All right.
Number 3 might be what we saw last year.
that
I
might
think
be.
they were 4. I
Dr.
can't remember
Dre.
who was 3. Let
Yeah.
me see.
Beyonce,
That Super Bowl.
Bruno Mars.
Bruno Mars had a great Super Bowl. Beyonce? You gotta say Beyonce.
Beyonce, Dre.
Is Janet in there when all the little confusion
Oh,
happened?
Janet.
She was in the
Dr.
8.
Dre and them number 3.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I think U2. Remember Bono,
Oh, yeah.
U2?
Uh-huh.
I think they
I
are number
ain't know none of that music at that time. I was in school. I ain't know them. So I ain't know none of their music. But did y'all like any of the commercials this year? Did y'all any commercials grab y'all
No.
attention? No?
Yeah, a
like
couple.
the-
Just, yeah.
I liked
I like
Serena.
Ben Affleck and J-Lo, that was pretty good.
At
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts, that was
The-
fun.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, that was cute.
No.
That
Nothing.
was cute.
The Diddy,
Steve, you
Diddy
got
commercial?
nothing?
Diddy's commercial?
Diddy
No?
don't do
What-
jingles.
Yeah.
Yeah, Diddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Steve is still mad about Philly.
Yeah,
Eagles
see?
lost.
He
It's
mad
just
about
not
the
even-
loss.
I like
So he
that
got to
about
deal
the
with
football.
that. That's
Yeah, he gonna need a minute, Junior.
I can't see. He gonna say, no, okay, cool. Well, we got it. There it is, sure.
All right, Junior, thank you. Coming up at the top of the hour, we'll talk about these Tuscaloosa, Alabama high school orders to students not to do civil rights during Black History Month. We'll talk about it right after this.
You're listening to the Steve Harvey Morning Show.
In 1967, Joseph Stalin's only daughter flees Russia for her new home, America.
Hello to everybody. I am very happy to be here.
That story alone is worthy of a podcast, but Svetlana is about what comes next, and it's the craziest story I've ever heard. It has KGB agents, a Frank Lloyd Wright commune, weird sex stuff, 3 Olgas, 2 Svetlanas, and 1 neurotic gay playwright. That's me. Listen to Svetlana on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Paper Ghosts is a true crime podcast investigating the mysterious disappearance and brutal, unsolved murder of Tammy Zawicki.
They just kept telling us from the beginning, she'll be back, she'll be back.
We had no clue where she was. Didn't know where to begin looking.
Tammy's story shocked the nation. The deeper I searched, the more troubling things I found.
The best lead, the best evidence, the best witness was blown off.
Listen to Paper Ghosts on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite shows.
In 2018, it was reported there was a dramatic rise in the number of cases of demonic possession. For many of the most disturbing cases, Father Carlos Martins was often summoned.
I have seen things, very evil things.
I order you to go in the name of Christ.
I'm not leaving. We've been together too long. He needs me.
Listen to The Exorcist Files on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, so now there's a shock here because essentially, in some sense, the entity that's going to provide the solution to this very complex problem has arrived on the scene. But it's quite damaged. First of all, it's been speaking improperly, right? So that's an adolescent representation. So it brays a lot of nonsense. And it's been corrupted in a variety of ways. And so, to some degree, what that means is that as you mature and you're moving away from your mere marionette status, your interaction with society, like Rousseau said, corrupts you in all sorts of ways. I mean, you're participating in that corruption, but it still happens. But in the representation in the movie, the truth of the matter is it doesn't matter if you've been corrupted to some degree, as long as you haven't absolutely sacrificed your capacity for true speech and vision. So, that's a pretty hopeful message, because Pinocchio is by no means a perfect entity, but he might be good enough.
One of the things that disturbs me constantly about ideological representations of the world, broadly speaking, is that their fundamental danger is that they always contain a too convenient theory of evil and malevolence. Mm-hmm. And for me, any theory that locates the fundamental problem of evil somewhere other than inside you is dangerous. Now, that isn't to say that social structures can't be corrupted and aren't corrupt. That's an existential problem in and of itself. it's always the case that our social institutions aren't what they should be, and they're outdated, and they're predicated to some degree on deceit. And people who use power can manipulate them, sometimes successfully. That problem never goes away, and it never will. But when the evil can be easily located somewhere else, then you have every moral right to allow your unexamined motivations to manifest themselves fully, because you can punish the evildoers and always remain on the moral side of the fence. There's a huge attractiveness in that.
I mean, this is something you've explored a lot with the idea of Solzhenitsyn's idea about the good and evil cutting through the heart of every human being, because that to me, it really gets to the heart of a lot of what I would call a kind of infantile culture. I think this is a symptom of childishness. You know, whenever I was learning about literature and what constituted more sophisticated literature and what didn't, Disney films, childish films, let's take Tolkien, for instance, bad people look bad, they look like orcs, they're ugly, and there are villains, and then there are heroes, and they are good. There isn't complexity. And if you have a more complex novel, like a Mervyn Peake novel, where people aren't necessarily good or bad, they're both, they struggle within themselves and with other people, that is a mark of a kind of adult novel as opposed to a childish novel, right? And that's quite an important distinction. And I think most of the political and ideological battles that I find myself in the middle of, and I'm sure you do as well, are because people are just reducing everything to this binary of good versus evil and putting themselves on the side of good. It is a very infantile, almost like a caricature of religion. You know, it's and I see it again and again. We had it in this country with the Brexit vote. Effectively, what happened in the vote here, and the reason why it became so toxic and families fell apart, and you wouldn't believe, I know it wasn't reported very much elsewhere, but it was like a kind of ideological civil war here, but not a very sophisticated one, because it came down to this narrative that if you voted to leave the EU, you were evil, racist, stupid, and if you voted to remain, you were good and progressive and all the rest, and noble and virtuous, right? And of course, there are all sorts of good reasons to have voted either way, and this kind of caricature, and it happens again with.
Well, you described it as a caricature of religion, and I think that's what an ideology is. And this is one of the reasons that I've been inclined, let's say, to have my shot at the rational atheists, much as I'm a fan of Enlightenment thinking. I mean, I was convinced as a consequence of reading Jung primarily, but also Dostoevsky and also Nietzsche primarily, and Solzhenitsyn, I would say, as well, and then biology as well, as I studied that more deeply. There's no escaping a religious framework. There's no way out of it. And if you eliminate it, say, as a consequence of rational criticism, what you inevitably produce is its replacement by forms of religion that are much less sophisticated. I mean,
well, it's not religion. It's a fundamentalist religion. It's, you know, if I look back to my Catholic upbringing, actually acknowledging your own capacity for sin is at the heart of Catholicism. That's why we have the confessional. That's why you sit there and tell this stranger all these things you've done wrong, because it's reckoning with it. That's far from trivial. It's unbelievably not trivial. And because it was so common, like a common part of Catholicism, it can be passed over without notice. And so the religious structures that we inherited, I'm going to talk about Christianity most specifically because it's the dominant form of, it's the form of religious belief that primarily undergirds our social structures. It's our operating system. My producer came up with that term the other day, and I thought it was apt. And it does localize the drama between good and evil inside, and makes you responsible for that, and makes you, encourages you, let's say, to attend to the ways that you fall short of the ideal. And when you criticize a structure like that out of existence, you don't criticize the questions that gave rise to it out of existence. And the questions might be, well, what's the nature of the good? What's the nature of evil? Those are religious questions. What's the purpose of our life? How do you orient yourself if you're trying to move up, let's say, rather than down?
How should you conduct yourself, et cetera, et cetera? Those questions don't go away, and they can't not be answered. And so the way that a traditional religious structure answers them is in a mysterious way. It uses ritual, it uses music, it uses art, it uses literature, it uses stories, all these things that are outside the realm of easy criticism. And then some of that's translated into, comprehensible, explicit dogma, and that's the part that's most susceptible to rational criticism. What kind of student organizations were they part of?
I think I can speak to that part because it's in the media. Divest was one of them, Divest Mount A. Another one was Black Student Association. And the other one, ironically, was the Rose Campaign. It's about the massacre at Polytechnique. And it means the world to me. Polytechnique is University of Montreal, right? So every year I commemorate, I participate. So that one group was that group, saying that I encourage gender violence, sexual violence, through my writing on the blog. And
that was because you were pointing out that such activity is not part and parcel of the central culture in Canada, but an aberration?
I was perhaps talking
You shall approach anyone near of kin to him to uncover nakedness. I am the Lord. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father, which is the nakedness of your mother. She is your mother. You shall not uncover her nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's wife. It is your father's nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your sister, the daughter of your father, or the daughter of your mother, whether born at home or born abroad. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your son's daughter, or of your daughter's daughter, for their nakedness is your own nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's wife's daughter, begotten by your father, since she is your sister. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's sister, she is your father's near kinswoman. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your mother's sister, for she is your mother's near kinswoman. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's brother, that is, you shall not approach his wife. She is your aunt. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your daughter-in-law. She is your son's wife. You shall not uncover her nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your brother's wife. She is your brother's nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of a woman and of her daughter, and you shall not take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter to uncover her nakedness. They are your near kinswoman. It is wickedness. And you shall not take a woman as a rival wife to her sister, uncovering her nakedness while her sister is yet alive. You shall not approach a woman to uncover her nakedness while she is in her menstrual uncleanness. And you shall not lie carnally with your neighbor's wife and defile yourself with her. You shall not give any of your children to devote them by fire to Moloch, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. You shall not lie with a male as with a woman. It is an abomination. And you shall not lie with any beast and defile yourself with it, neither shall any woman give herself to a beast to lie with it. It is perversion. Do not defile yourselves by any of these things, for by all these the nations I am casting out before you defiled themselves, and the land became defiled, so that I punished its iniquity, and the land vomited out its inhabitants. But you shall keep my statutes and my ordinances, and do none of these abominations either to the native or the stranger who sojourns among you. For all these abominations the men of the land did who were before you, so that the land became defiled. Lest the land vomit you out when you defile it, as it vomited out the nation that was before you. For whoever shall do any of these abominations, the persons that do them shall be cut off from among their people. So, keep my charge never to practice any of these abominable customs which were practiced before you, and never to defile yourselves by them. I am the Lord your God. Psalm 78. God's goodness and Israel's ingratitude. A maskil of Asaph. Give ear, O my people, to my teaching. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings from of old, things that we have heard and known, that our fathers have told us. We will not hide them from their children, but tell to the coming generation the glorious deeds of the Lord and his might, the wonders which he has wrought. He established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers to teach to their children, that the next generation might know them, the children yet unborn, and arise and tell them to their children, so that they should set their hope in God and not forget the works of God, but keep his commandments, and that they should not be like their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation whose heart was not steadfast, whose spirit was not faithful to God. The Ephraimites, armed with a bow, turned back on the day of battle. They did not keep God's covenant, but refused to walk according to his law. They forgot what he had done, and the miracles that he had shown them. In the sight of their fathers, he wrought marvels. In the land of Egypt, in the fields of Zoan, he divided the sea and let them pass through it. He made the waters stand like a heap. In the daytime, he led them with a cloud, and all the night with a fiery light. He cleft rocks in the wilderness and gave them drink abundantly as from the deep. He made streams come out of the rock and caused waters to flow down like the rivers. Yet they sinned still more against him, rebelling against the Most High in the desert. They tested God in their heart by demanding the food they craved. They spoke against God, saying, "Can God spread a table in the wilderness?" He struck the rock so that the water gushed out and streams overflowed. Can he also give bread or provide meat for his people? Therefore, when the Lord heard, he was full of wrath. A fire was kindled against Jacob. His anger mounted against Israel because they had no faith in God and did not trust his saving power. Yet he commanded the skies above and opened the doors of heaven, and he rained down upon them manna to eat and gave them the bread of heaven. Man ate of the bread of the angels. He sent them food in abundance. He caused the east wind to blow in the heavens, and by his power he let out the south wind. He rained down flesh upon them like dust, winged birds like the sand of the seas. He let them fall in the midst of their camp and all around their habitations. And they ate, and were well filled, for he gave them what they craved. But before they had sated their craving, while the food was still in their mouths, the anger of God rose against them, and he slew the strongest of them, and laid low the picked men of Israel. In spite of all this, they still sinned. Despite his wonders, they did not believe. So he made their days vanish like a breath, and their years in terror. When he slew them, they sought for him. They repented and sought God earnestly. They remembered that God was their rock, the Most High was their Redeemer. But they flattered him with their mouths. They lied to him with their tongues. Their heart was not steadfast toward him. They were not true to his covenant. Yet he, being compassionate, forgave their iniquity and did not destroy them. He restrained his anger often and did not stir up all his wrath. He remembered that they were but flesh, a wind that passes and comes not again. How often they rebelled against him in the wilderness and grieved him in the desert. They tested him again and again and provoked the Holy One of Israel. They did not keep in mind his power or the day when he redeemed them from the foe, when he wrought his signs in Egypt and his miracles in the fields of Zoan. He turned their rivers to blood so that they could not drink of their streams. He sent among them swarms of flies which devoured them and frogs which destroyed them. He gave their crops to the caterpillar and the fruit of their labors to the locust. He destroyed their vines with hail and their sycamores with frost. He gave over their cattle to the hail and their flocks to thunderbolts. He let loose on them his fierce anger, wrath, indignation, and distress, a company of destroying angels. He made a path for his anger. He did not spare.
So inside, in case something goes wrong, the person is no more. The doctor says, "Sister, take the body out." Why the difference in vocabulary? Take Mr. So-and-so inside and take the body out. That means after that, it's only a body. It's only a body. So the master of the body has left. The energy has left. Left and gone where? Energy. cannot be destroyed, cannot be created. It's eternal. So I am eternal. So where do I go? So I, the energy, leave the body, take another costume, enter the womb of a mother, and very soon start a new life. Life after life after life after life. It's only a change of costume. It's only a change of costume, just like you're wearing a dress today. Tomorrow morning, new dress. Now, the people who are sitting around you right now, just see them. Tomorrow morning, they will also be in another dress. And you will also be in another dress. Similarly, the people in your lives. When you meet them in this body, they have also changed their bodies. But sometimes, we are meeting souls whom we've met before. We are meeting souls whom we've met before. Souls with whom we have very beautiful karmic connections. We've met them before. And souls with whom we have we've met them before. And in our previous meeting, whatever was the karmic exchange, whatever behaviors, words, energies, interactions we had, I, the soul, leave the body. But that karma, that impression carries forward with me. And when two souls meet, and this is something you would have all experienced, sometimes you feel very nice meeting somebody. And you say, they're not related to me, I hardly know them. Why is it I'm feeling so nice meeting this person? It's a past karmic carry forward. You don't recognize them with these eyes, but the soul instantly recognizes them and feels that same energy which the soul has experienced before with them. And with someone, even though they may be immediate family, I don't know why we keep having problems with each other. Why we just don't seem to be getting along. I don't know why they have a problem with me. We are all souls on a journey. And it's very important to always remember this. I am a soul on a journey and they are a soul on a journey. And a soul on a journey means many, many karmas, many, many experiences, many, many thought processes, many, many emotional patterns. And when we look at them in this lifetime, we say, my partner, my child, my mother, my sibling. That is just a role we are playing in this lifetime. A soul on a journey. A very pure, loveful soul on a journey. And so I need to remember that if I have some karmic discomfort with somebody in this lifetime, it may not have started in this lifetime. And that's why a lot of people today go through a past life regression to see what had happened in the past. But we don't even need to go through a past life regression to see what had happened in the past. It's really not needed actually. We don't need to go and find out what happened in the past. We just need to know, what do I have to do now? Because it's the present which is powerful. Past is already done. It's finished. It's over. I can't do anything to the past. But I can change the karmic energy in the present. So the power lies in the present. Irrespective of whatever had happened in the past, the power lies in the present. And what I choose to do in the present, in terms of my thinking, will also decide my future. Because my present is my present karma. It's the present energy I create, and that decides the future. And that's why the world says everything is predestined. No? Doesn't the world say everything is predestined? Which means my destiny is already decided. It's predestined. But predestined by who? Predestined by who? Predestined by me. When I created that karma, I already chose what will happen next with me. So now when I receive an energy from somebody which is not as per my expectations, let me just remember, this is a return energy of something that I had created before. Let me now send the energy which I want to create in this relationship. So shift from focusing on what you are getting and focus only on what you are giving. Because happiness means to be a giver. A giver. A giver not in physical things, but a giver in thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Instead of living a life saying, I need happiness, I need love, I need respect, I need somebody to understand me. We're not like this, needing, seeking, wanting. This is not happiness. Happiness means I give love. I radiate love because I am love. So what I am automatically will radiate from me. It's some belief system somebody taught us when we were kids. We need love from people. No, we don't need love from people. We radiate and give love to people. But then who's going to give me? When I give, it is first I create. So I create and I give, and the first one to experience it is me. So it's very, very important that we are going to settle our past karmic accounts. Something that we created in the past creates a discomfort in the present, but to heal it in the present is very important. Otherwise, it remains as a discomfort in my present, and if I don't heal it before I leave this body, big chances that I carry forward with me. And so forgiveness is very important, because forgiveness means I am changing my present karma. I'm changing my present karma. So forgiveness becomes very, very important. Otherwise, we're carrying a personality of feeling rejected, feeling humiliated, feeling hurt, not created in this lifetime. We've created these emotional patterns before. And we're not aware. And we say, why am I feeling like this? Why do I keep feeling like this? Why repeatedly with me? Repeatedly with me because I'm not changing my past emotional hurt. For us, it is life and death. But for the soul, it is you're in this body, tomorrow in another. So today, if you were dancing or playing or horse riding and you injured yourself, and if you don't heal it, tomorrow you will change your dress, but your injury remains where it is, and it's going to pain you again tomorrow because you didn't heal it while you were in this dress. Similarly, I am in this dress. Someone did something to me. I didn't heal my pain. Tomorrow this dress will change, but I will carry that pain with me. So a lot of personality traits we're carrying from birth, we're carrying from the womb of the mother, and we're probably carrying from the past. So it's time to heal. It's time to heal. So let's create a few affirmations right now for ourselves so that...
When I was a conservative evangelical Christian, I'm a graduate of Moody Bible Institute, where Bible is our middle name. And so I come from that world. I come from your world. I ended up changing my mind, not because I wanted to be hard-hearted, or because I wanted to oppose God, or because I just wanted to be mean-spirited. I changed my mind because I thought I was wrong. And it was emotionally very difficult. But it's what I think is right. So I'm not urging you to follow my path, follow your own path. The question is, did Jesus consider himself to be divine? Now, I'm in a real handicap here, because it's quite clear that Jesus in the New Testament does declare himself divine. The clearest proof of that is John chapter 15, verse 1. Jesus explicitly says, I am divine, you're the branches. So I'm really up against it here, because there it is. Did Jesus claim to be God?
Okay, well, there you go. Somebody in Twitter said that they involuntarily laughed when I told that joke on the last dividing line. I think my timing was better on the last dividing line. But give him credit. He was interrupted because they could tell they're having sound problems. And so some guy walks up and, hey, at least the lights didn't go out. That we do. Evidently, Red didn't make it to this debate, so at least the lights didn't go out, and that's probably a good thing. But there's the evidence. I am divine, and you are the branches. Saw that one coming from a mile off, but as long as you get laughs, I guess you just keep using it.
Right. How much time have I spent already? How much time have I wasted already? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Let me start off by saying what we're not debating, because I think it's very important for us to be on the same page. Now, what we're not debating, before I get to what I think we are debating. We are not debating the question, is Jesus God? Most of you think that he is God, and I'm not debating that. I'm not saying that Jesus was not God. I'm an agnostic. I personally don't believe Jesus was, but that's not what we're debating. Okay, just so you can understand. Secondly, we're not asking, did the writers of the Gospels think Jesus was God? I think the answer is yes. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, in different ways, thought that Jesus was God. But that's not what we're debating.
Okay, so very important. Catch that right there. All my Muslim friends, did you hear what Bart Ehrman just said? If you're going to quote Bart Ehrman in the future, make sure you just heard him say, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John all thought Jesus was God in different ways, but they all thought he was God. This idea that they all thought he was just a prophet or something, don't quote this guy as being supportive of your position. He's not. He's wrong on that too, but the point is at least accurately represent that. But what he's saying is the gospel writers did believe this, and that's going to be part of his argument. They did believe it, and therefore the evidence they give for it must be dismissed. Because they did believe it. So that ends up becoming evidence that Jesus didn't believe it. Think that one through, and you'll see how it works out later on.
We're debating, did Jesus claim to be God? We're also not debating, does Jesus claim to be God in the New Testament? We're not debating that. Because in the New Testament, Jesus does claim to be God. He doesn't claim to be God in any of the passages that Justin just mentioned. As you may have noticed if you paid careful attention, Jesus, in none of those passages, does Jesus say, I am God.
Now there was Bart Ehrman channeling Ahmadiyya. In none of these passages did Jesus say, I am God. Well, again, they're going to get into Mark chapter 14, the Son of Man statement. Ehrman's going to do his, there's just so many books on the subject of the Son of Man, and it's just very complicated, and everybody thought they had it figured out 100 years ago, but now nobody really knows. And again, if you listen carefully, what he's going to say is, oh yeah, there are plenty of places where Jesus identifies himself as the Son of Man. But then there are these others that, given his theory of who Jesus was, and given his theory of how the gospel writers are self-contradictory and how they're myth-making and making stuff up. See, the idea that you could actually go to the New Testament and go, who is the Son of Man? Well, you put these together and you harmonize them. No. Naivete, pre-critical thinking. No. The critical thinker says you can't harmonize. No. You guilty until proven innocent is our motto. And so who the Son of Man is, that's going to come up. He's going to admit that in John, Jesus says he's God. He says John 8:58 is the clearest you get. Before Abraham was, I am. But Jesus clearly didn't say that. In fact, the very last words that he utters in this debate, because he got the last word, was the vast majority of modern New Testament scholars do not believe that anything in the Gospel of John is historical. That's the last claim that he makes. So given his standards, there's no way that Dr. Bass could even make an argument. We don't know what Jesus said from his perspective, and therefore cannot affirm that Jesus ever claimed to be God. It's easy way to get to the end point of your debate, I guess, but not overly useful.
The first passages he mentioned were from the writings of the Apostle Paul, where Jesus was not speaking. Elsewhere, Jesus talked about being the Son of God. We're asking, not was Jesus the Son of God? We're asking, did Jesus call himself God? He does in some places in the New Testament. John chapter 8, verse 58, Jesus says, Before Abraham was, I am. The Jews know perfectly well what he's saying. They take out stones to stone him to death. I and the Father are one. John 10:30. Unambiguous. Whoever has seen...
Now, by the way, unambiguous. Now, again, I'd like I'd like my Muslim friends, I know you're listening.